Wagwan World Boy, and welcome to the review of the Krytac Kriss Vector GBB version. As usual, I have already uploaded a detailed showcase including some shooting and a few other tests in my last video prior to this one, so make sure to check that one out as well. In this video though, I'll only go over the main features of the Kriss Vector again to talk about their pros and cons, and then I'll also tell you about my experience with it and my opinion about it. Let's start by talking about the outside of this airsoft marker, since that's the first thing that meets the eye, and you gotta admit, this thing looks sweet as hell. Especially the dual tone colorway really speaks to me because it reminds me of the Vector from Modern Warfare 2. And not Modern Warfare 2 specifically, but video games is probably the main source where people know this weapon from. The Vector just looks so unique, and even though I'm not really into futuristic weapons when it comes to the design, I gotta say that this one is an exception. The magazine release button, the bolt catch and the charging handle are all on the left side and work great, but they are only on the left side, which for me as a left-hander is a bit complicated. So as a right-handed person, the controls are easily reachable. You barely have to move your hand at all to reach them. And as a left-handed person, the magazine release button and the bolt catch aren't that much of a problem either. I mean, if you go without a front grip, your hand is already here, sitting on the magazine release button anyway, and the bolt catch is also easily reachable. But the charging handle is where it gets a bit tricky. Here you are left with around 3 choices that are all not really great. Either you take your hand off the trigger and charge it like this, which is kind of the most comfortable way, but you don't really want to take your hand off the trigger. And then second and third way are either going under it, almost AK style, or over it, like this. The only thing that works for both left and right-handers is the safety switch. As you can see, I can use it from both sides. And I would assume that the same goes for the fire mode selector, but here on the German version you can't change its position at all due to some restrictions that only allow you to use it in single fire mode.
What the fuck?
Then you have the optional Picatinny rail that you can either mount to the right or the left side, and while it's always great to have more space for attachments, this doesn't really work out for left-handers once again. So this is obviously the right side, and if we imagine a flashlight here for a second, and if we now grab the Vector by its front grip, then you can see that it kind of would be in the way of your thumb or your wrist. And if you would put it on the left side, then it would get in the way of the charging handle, no matter how you charge it. I'm happy that they chose a 40mm counterclockwise thread for the muzzle thread, because there are tons of suppressors and tracers and things alike available that work with that muzzle thread. And then when it comes to the front and back sides, they are also great. They are easily unfolded and collapsed, and they are only made out of plastic, just so you know, but as far as I can tell, they are very durable. This curve right here at the back where the stock drops down leads to the line of sight being closer to your eyes, so when shouldering the rifle it's much easier to get on target quick, especially when wearing some kind of face protection. A collapsible stock always gives you some style points, so that's great. Once the stock is collapsed, it sits there tight, it doesn't come loose by itself and it doesn't make any weird sounds. And once you want it to unfold, you just simply lift it just a bit and then it can unfold like this. And you only have to lift it over this edge right here. Just like on the original, the body of the Vector as well as the outside of the magazine is completely made out of a plastic or polymer. And I don't have any complaints about it. It feels good, it doesn't give in when pressing hard on it, and feels sturdy. The trigger also is surprisingly good and allows you to shoot really fast because there's a clear wall and a clear reset. So no complaints here. The power and the accuracy of this airsoft marker are also fairly good. I mean, you can't expect too much out of such a short barrel and also only 1 joule of power. Reaching that 1 joule of power doesn't require too much gas, so therefore you can get a lot of shots out of a full magazine. So that's a positive. But that also leads me to one of my negative points about the Vector, because I do feel like you can't use all of the gas that is available in the magazine. Because at some point the gas or power isn't great enough to cycle the bolt backwards and to feed another BB into the chamber or barrel. And I mean, that's not unusual for gas blowback rifles or pistols, but I do feel like that point is reached fairly quick here on the Vector. And you know what, since I'm already talking about the magazine, let's drop the second negative aspect about this magazine, which is that at least here on my one, the BBs sometimes, for some weird reason, get stuck here in the upper part, and then you have to manually kind of loosen them up again, and then it works again. But until that happens, it won't feed, so no shots coming out of the airsoft marker. I also would have wished for the blowback of this Kriss Vector to be a bit stronger. I guess one could argue that the recoil on the original Kriss Vector is also lower or just different, but I think that's making excuses, and at the end of the day we all buy GBB markers for the recoil. And now let's get into the price of this Kriss Vector, which honestly is a bit high. You can't argue with that, but that probably has to do with the license to get all the original markings on here and stuff, and you gotta admit that they really look ridiculously good. And in all honesty, I can't really make the argument here for performance, but then again, when it comes to the design, I could understand why somebody would really want this. It definitely makes my collection feel much more complete, but sadly I have to give it back. Well, I'm sorry that this video didn't have any real structure, and therefore I don't really think we need a conclusion here. Everything that's important has been said, and I don't want to repeat myself over and over again. If you are thinking about buying this airsoft marker, then please consider to do so from
Sniper Airsoft.de,
because that was the company that was kind enough to lend this Vector out to me in order to make these videos. So thanks again, and thanks to you for watching. Bless and love.